right, guys, we're back, and now we're going to be talking about Christoper Nolan's Batman. Halo Seraphim's going to be sitting in along with Doug Funny. How's it going, guys? Before we get to Halo's official interview here, now she has some pretty strong opinions on it.
Yeah.
So, and
not her interview on the Batman.
On the
universe.
Batman, yeah, she has no opinion about her interview.
No.
Now it's kind of sad. With V was sitting here earlier, and I was really hoping to have her in for the interview, but she had a mild case of concussionitis, and so she had to be rushed down to the lower floors. So apparently the altitude up here on the third floor in the studios is kind of getting to her.
Huh.
So she's gonna go lay down.
There's thin air up here.
She's gonna go lay down on the concrete outside and try to feel a little better. So if she may text in some of what she was gonna talk about.
Okay, well that's good.
So. Sorry to disappoint you at home, but yeah, she has some really, really genius, great things to say. So if we don't,
well,
get
she
to
worked
those
on
today,
all of the movies.
Well,
so.
yeah, the last two, and that was really cool because she had some insight that other people don't have. Oh, hand me a screwdriver. Sorry, I just
Sonic
saw that.
screwdriver.
I just saw that one.
Which version do you want? The blue or the green?
The green.
The green.
Hey, Jenna, if you wouldn't mind, under the folder there, there's one of the shots is labeled Doctor Who shoot. If we throw that up on the screen for the guys, 2 weekends ago we did a shoot with all the Doctor Who's in Dallas.
No way, I didn't hear about that. How did I not hear about this?
I don't know. I thought you knew the group, but
you can't even work yours. That's what she said.
oh, get out of here! I'm not working mine.
If you press it like 3 times in a row and hold it down, it makes a different noise. If you press it like 2 times and then 1 and then just hold it, it makes like 7 or 8 different
I
secret
didn't know that.
noises.
That's cool.
I know it's totally lame, but I don't care.
But yeah, if you want to peek your head around the corner there and take a look, it's all. I think it was out of the 11 doctors, we had 8 or 9 of them. So, and I happen to look particularly dashing in that shot, by the way. I stole that. That's gone up on like all my Facebooks and stuff too.
Dude, that's actually pretty badass.
Yeah. So we'll have to. We're gonna have them.
Rather
in the studio
some
as
lame
well.
ass dude like sitting in the front of the whole picture looking like a dweeb.
He definitely
Yeah.
doesn't
His name's
look like a
Del
doctor.
or something. I don't know. He's really annoying.
It's better in the Doctor Whom group we're getting together. They're a little bit more proper.
Yes.
Yes. They just sit there. Oh no, doctor! There's something. I don't have time for that. I'm having my tea. So it's not as interesting as you would think.
It's much more English.
Yeah, it's like watching Downtown Abbey, but it's like a sci-fi.
It's pronounced Downton.
Downton Abbey.
Is it Downton Abbey now? Nope. Is it for real?
So,
Ridiculous.
well, all right, let's get into it because we're running.
Yeah, we are going to run on time today.
Yeah, that's true. We've got some special stuff going on afterwards. But let's talk about the Batman universe. Of course, most people know Batman. Not a Marvel character. Let's start with that. Because I'm tired of people saying I'm a Marvel fanboy. Yeah, and despite the fact I'm wearing Marvel
That
today.
is a little awkward.
It's ironic.
Oh, you're wearing it ironically?
Is
It's
it ironic,
a
or did you just forget?
I forgot, but it's and that's ironic too because I should have remembered that I was doing a show and it's the opposite of that.
I got my Marvel shirt
and
on.
look, he's got a
also.
Marvel shirt on too.
That's because Marvel is better.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Oh, wow,
ridiculous.
really?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Actually, growing up, Marvel is what I was really kind of first introduced to with like the whole
same
X-Men
here.
thing. I mean, I was very, very into the X-Men. It's kind of like Kevin Smith mentioned. It's like especially if you're like in the gay community and like you come out, and it's very, you can relate to that because it's kind of the same thing, right?
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I can
they're
see that.
being,
Persecuted
discriminated against
and,
because they're mutants, because they're different, and it starts in high school, just like, you
And
kind of
also,
that.
gay people have superpowers.
Duh, like gaydar.
Gaydar?
Yeah.
They have their own $3 bills, I hear now.
Wow.
Skin flutes.
Yep.
It's pretty impressive. Very good musicians, I hear them as well. The gays.
Very musical people.
Yeah, the people.
I'm only half, so
What do you mean, you people?
I can only represent a small.
What do you mean, you
minuscule amount
people?
of
So Batman's. So let's see. Nolan's Batman, of course. Christopher Nolan, the guy who did Memento, Inception, The Prestige. So he's known for having kind of
Christian Bale in all of his movies.
I thought you were going to say Christian motifs, and I was going to be like, you have missed every single bit of. Yeah, Christian Bale, and but he's known for having very in-depth subject matter, dealing a lot with consciousness and thoughts and memories and what that means. And like we were talking about, each of the Batman movies has a specific layering process, with the third being subterranean, underground, bursting forth.
Yeah.
And he uses a lot of great imagery. So let's start off with, the Batman Begins, kind of reset the whole... Well, it
did reset it.
It did reset it. It was the gritty reboot that everyone talks about.
It kind of started the whole trend of reboots, too.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
I would agree with you there. And it's also kind of like a grungy, darker tone, which is where kind of everybody was at that moment.
Right.
I mean, we're starting to kind of grow out of that now. But like for the last several years, I think that was a good, appropriate reboot style.
Yeah.
Well, what's nice is like because everybody it become campy up to that point. Like one of my favorite up until that point, one of my favorite comic book movies was Dick Tracy. And it was done
That's a
really,
great movie.
really well. And
Because it looks like comic book pages.
because it looks
that
like
are
comic
moving.
books.
Exactly.
But they also didn't try to do it realistically. It was a comic book
Yeah.
brought to life.
Kind of
And
like a Liechtenstein painting or whatever that is. Like all the girls are doing like their makeup where they got like the comic dots. And
Yeah.
stuff.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
And it, the stark coloring of the costumes and the backgrounds, the matte paintings, and everything was great. But yeah, that didn't really work for doing Batman, because I mean, look, Schumacher tried it, and
It was
that
just
was
weird.
a gigantic piece of crap.
It was a
I mean,
giant
the
turd
Batman
on
Yeah.
fire.
The
I
Burton,
hate it.
the Burton ones were good and original, but they were Burton films that happened to be about Batman.
Yeah.
To me,
Dude, I'm completely on the same page with you on this. I'm so glad to hear somebody else saying the same thing that I've been saying because, like, my friends just argue with me about this all the time.
really.
Yes.
Well, here's something to say. If you ever, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the hardest thing for me to get behind on the Burton ones is I have trouble seeing Michael Keaton as
Yeah,
the
that was.
Batman.
I never quite got that.
I
one.
can understand
He did fine
that,
as Bruce
but-
Wayne.
No, I understand. I totally agree with you there. It's like kind of weird, especially after you see movies like Multiplicity or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, this is Batman, but really, honestly, I just for some reason I'm like, okay, I buy it a lot more than I buy George Clooney.
Right. Well, and
Bat nipples got
Bat
go.
nipples.
They
I was
got
just about
Bat
to say
credit
it.
card. That's
Yeah.
gotta
Oh, I
fucking
love that
go.
scene. Never leave home without it. Really?
If you
Really
ever-
movies?
If you ever
I
want
know,
proof
they
that
hate
Burton,
us.
well, if you ever want proof that Burton, had it was more of a Burton film than a Batman or DC film. Is you can look at the first one and it's not stock. I mean, it's got a great bit of German expressionism, what he's known for.
Yeah.
But the second one is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. If you look, the Penguin is dressed just like one of the characters, Max. That's Christopher
Max
Walken. Zolan. He's
yeah.
just a character. It's an exact design out of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Most of the buildings are designed from like the sets from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it's obvious that it's just like he just did this love affair of one of his favorite movies and just added Batman motifs on top of the Cabinet of Dr.
Interesting.
Caligari.
I've never seen that.
I'll show you
so-
the videos sometime. Well, and maybe we'll go into this some other time. But yeah, it's and
Totally.
you can tell it's a Burton film with that kind of twist to it. Now the Nolan films, where all the other ones have gotten really silly and really playful, and people taking the idea of comic book a little silly.
Yeah.
He said, "I want to do a realistic Batman," and he focused more on what it would take for a person to become a vigilante.
In the
On
real
that
world.
In the
Yeah.
real
In the real
world.
world. And I totally, completely agree with everything there. And I appreciate that he made that. Still in my heart of hearts, the Tim Burton ones are my favorite. But those Nolan ones are brilliant.
And that's
Yeah.
what I think it is. It's not. It's a Batman film, but it's a story about Bruce Wayne becoming or embracing the Batman and becoming
Agreed.
the Batman
It's
himself.
less of a comic book movie, like in
Yes.
the
Right.
sense we were talking
Like
about
I
before.
almost feel like
It's-
I'd be watching, like a Hemingway, brought to
Yeah.
life, or something by the Bard. It's
Yeah.
it's a change about a man, becoming something and representing something to a city, and Batman just happened to be the iconography he picked for that as well.
Yeah.
But at least he embraced, the Batman. I mean, the characters they picked. I love the fact that Ra's al Ghul was the first one.
Me
The
too.
first
I was
villain,
so happy
because I
they
assumed
put
it
him.
would
He's
just
my
be.
favorite.
I just figured, okay, they'll do the Joker
Right.
right off the bat,
Yeah.
or Catwoman.
Raj
So that'd
Al
be
Ghul
popular.
is my. If you ever asked me, even since I was in the '90s, man, from the animated Batman TV show, which was amazing, and it still
Yeah, it is
is.
great.
Greatest
Raj
cartoon
Al Ghul
ever.
and his daughter are like some of the best
Well,
characters.
and that's
ever
why.
made.
And
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, but you should have already seen it by now.
Yeah, I agree.
That Talia's in the third movie.
Okay.
I don't know if you-
Really?
But
Sweet.
And what's
Yeah.
cool is they bring
And
it
she's
back
hot.
around cyclical.
Really?
So they,
Yeah.
they.
Thank goodness for that.
But they make it cyclical in the fact that the movies aren't three separate stories. It's one large story about Batman beginning, Batman coming to terms with what he represents as an
Yep.
antithesis of the Joker, as a madman versus. Now you got to remember, everything Batman does is the same thing the Joker does. Like there's
Yes,
there's,
exactly.
He's still crazy.
Yeah, he's still crazy.
Yeah.
He's still nuts. He still blows things up. It's that he just won't take a human life, and that's the stopping point. Where the Joker wants to make the point that anybody can cross that line.
Except
so
he takes a
Batman-
human life in the first one.
Well, he
Which
takes a
also
lot of human lives in the first
leads
one when he
to
sets the place.
question,
When he sets that place on fire, and they just showed like dozens of people in cages.
Yeah.
they kind of gloss over the fact that he just murdered a couple of dozen people.
Yeah.
right
Well,
before anything
Then I have
else.
a question for you then. This is the same question everybody always asks though, which is like if Batman and Joker, the difference, which is the stopping line being, killing people, then where does that put people like Punisher and Lobo, right?
Yeah.
They're
Well,
anti-heroes.
Punisher is the anti-hero.
And they're on
That's
Marvel,
it,
so
right.
that we don't.
he's my favorite.
And they're on
He's my
Marvel,
favorite
so we don't
Marvel
have to talk about him because he's on a different comic universe.
But Lobo's so awesome.
No,
have
yeah.
you seen his giant like crotch decorations and the giant titty
Well,
women?
I
in
think
that?
they- I did
see-
zombies.
I
The
did
zombies.
I saw the crossover where Marvel kills him. So
Zombie aliens, dude. I'm
Well,
telling
they're
you.
more the gray ground, and I think that's
Yeah.
the point: is that Batman, as dark as he is, and
he's
this
a definite good guy. Though.
right. He's a good guy,
He
and that's
doesn't
what I
cross
liked
that line.
about the dichotomy in the second movie. I actually heard one of my writing professors when I was in college said, I could have just done without the whole Harvey Dent Two-Face argument, and I was like,
Really?
What? That's the
What?
entire basis of the second film. Is that
That's the whole point.
Batman is not the bad. It's like the good, bad, and the ugly. It's a remake because there's the good guy, Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
The bad guy, Joker, and the ugly is the Batman.
It's brilliant.
And,
yes.
Yeah, and it's
Yes,
like you won't
exactly.
have that triad of, Batman wouldn't look so good if it wasn't for the Joker. If it was
Yes.
Harvey Dent versus the Batman and there were no Joker, then Batman's the bad guy.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
Because
absolutely
he would just
right.
be this vigilante running around taking crimes on the hand when there's this other guy who's willing to prosecute, stand up, and risk his own life like Batman is. Then Batman is a bad guy in comparison to Harvey Dent.
You
And
know,
so you
I
had to
never
have
thought
that.
about that. You're actually giving me something new to think about. That's brilliant.
And
That really
I
is.
was just shocked that, without the Harvey Dent, then Batman just becomes an antithesis of the Joker. He's not this middle ground that's being shoved back and forth as an iconic character. And that's what I loved about the second one is it forces him from one spectrum to another. It pushes him really close to the Joker and then pushes him away. It's not until Harvey Dent is killed that Batman kind of has to take up that man. When he sees that the good can even become bad. So when
Exactly.
Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face at the end, now Batman realizes, man, even this, in between moving in the middle, that's kept me safe because if you go to one extreme, you talk about terrorism being at one extreme, but if you go to fundamentalism at the other, that's just as bad. When Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face about wanting to take out crime by killing everybody and then all of a sudden he represents the other extreme of evil, of just not wanting to pay attention to authority. And oddly enough, Batman, because he stayed like a reed in the storm instead of an oak, he weathers the storm and is able to make it through when both other characters die. Now, the third movie, what I really liked is we talked about subterfuge in that. That the idea is Gotham, the safety of Gotham now, by the time the third movie rolls around, is built on a lie.
Yeah.
Everybody believes that Harvey Dent was murdered by the Batman, and they've done plenty of psychological studies that show the only way to get groups to unite is to have a common enemy.
Yeah.
And
That's usually what works.
the bigger the common enemy, the more smaller groups you can get together.
Yeah.
And so, but the harmony of Gotham now is built on a lie. The Batman wasn't the bad guy. The good guy was the bad guy, And so Bane is the bringer forth of light almost. He's the not the savior of the city because he's obviously the bad guy, but Bane's job is to undo the lie that has been holding it down. Because if you're going to have a happiness or a paradise based on a lie, well then
It's going to fall apart.
It's going to
eventually.
fall
It
apart.
always
Yeah,
does.
it always does. Exactly.
Right,
I
exactly.
agree.
So it's almost like Gotham has become this cult, where everybody just believes this one thing that isn't
Yeah.
true. And Bane has set out to say, look, if, first of all, the League of Shadows, which is great because they tie back to that, was going to destroy the city because it's corrupt. But now you're just as corrupt, you've just glossed it over.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason that Bane and them are tunneling under the city, is that the city is rotting from the inside like a body that, that has a disease or a cancer.
Getting
when-
very existential with this.
It is.
sir. I
No,
like it.
And so when Bane blows up, the parts of the city, what it means is that the lower the part they've been hiding, the not the facade,
The underground? I'm
Well,
trying to...
well,
Like
yeah,
the poor people.
right. Well, the
Kind of.
latent as opposed to the
Yeah.
manifest is finally brought forth to the surface, and all the
Yes.
people that were on the surface are now trapped below the ground. And it creates
Well,
this.
it
back
brings
and
them down
forth.
to their level. It's not.
That's
so
a good
much,
way of
like-
putting it
Yes,
too. That all of a
yes.
sudden Gotham is reduced to the level of where it actually sits. It's gutters.
Yeah.
And the base of Gotham is not the streets anymore. The base of Gotham is now underneath the cities.
Yeah.
The
So it's kind of like
sewers.
everybody's expectations were lowered to the same level. It's kind
Yeah,
of how it sounds.
Exactly.
Actually.
And of course, when it's locked off, if it's a prison, it becomes this underground, prison facility where
Kind of,
everything's
yeah.
allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And it's that. So that's what I liked about how they use Bane coming up from the ground to bring everything back down to where it was. Because now the battle has to be won again. If Gotham's going to emerge, it can't emerge on a lie. which is what it tried to do in the second movie. Gotham has to emerge by defeating its actual enemy.
Yeah.
And the actual enemy is the will of the people wanting to do wrong to each other.
Yes.
Which Bane represents by giving it, like the Joker.
He gives the people an opportunity to finally do this.
Right, just like the Joker did in the second movie. We will allow you to blow up each other's boat. And the city withstood that one test, but that was only two groups of people.
Bane's test is on a much grander scale.
Right, and his test is, unlike the Joker, is just one crazy guy running around trying to prove a point. Bane is the League of Shadows that is almost like
he brings an army.
Right, it's like the chaotic nature of it's like the chaotic nature of the human soul. He's going to prove that this is in everybody, and if Gotham can weather that storm, then Gotham is justified in continuing as a group of people or as a society.
But then again, he was just going to blow them all up anyways.
Right, and then that's the other thing. Of course, it's a bad guy. He was going to blow them all up anyway. But the Batman has to emerge from being the villain or from being the ugly, the bad guy, to actually being the good guy and standing up. And of course, Joseph Gordon-Levitt represents the see, I don't want to say anything about this, but
it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, there's no Robin in the film. Except that Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the very end, you find out his real name his middle name is Robin,
Sweet.
and he's been following Batman. And of course, when Batman retires.
I'm okay
at the end of the film.
Yeah, he leaves him access to the cave.
Yeah, he basically he wills him everything, and the film ends with Christoper Nolan said there will not be another movie, and that's where it's supposed to end.
That's a brilliant
It's called The Dark Knight Rises, and at the end, Gordon-Levitt is stepping into the Batcave for the first time and realizing that. As much as he's admired Batman, now all of this is at his disposal.
Yeah.
And the lift starts lifting up out of the water where it lifts the car, and it just takes him out of frame for the new
it's
Batman.
a very nice ending.
And it's a great idea of how the prestige almost gets passed on.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy.
I was really, really happy with the ending of the film. But it's the city of Gotham has overcome on its own merit, not because one vigilante got out there and glossed over things, not because people lied.
They wanted to save themselves.
Right, it's like you can't put people in jail by manipulating evidence because eventually when DNA comes along,
it's still corrupt.
It's going to get
corrupt
turned
is
over.
Corrupt.
Well, and eventually that's going to get turned over if you fudge the evidence to put a rapist in jail. But he really did it, and then later they find DNA evidence that exonerates him. Or
then he gets to go, and
then he gets to go, or they find that you didn't follow proper rights or procedures. Then he gets out, and that's exactly what they did in the second one. Is they cheated the system of justice, which is supposed to be standing up for him. They pay for that by having Bane come for him.
Yeah,
and of course Talia, which is the ultimate representation of that, following in her father's legacy.
Yep,
Bane is just the henchman for that. But yeah, I really like that. First of all, it's a whole story that starts from Ra's al Ghul, the father, finding this man who he thinks can help bring down the most corrupt city on earth. And that man, at the end, overcoming his daughter's legacy, the legacy of the daughter, to prove that, no, this city did have it in it. And it also is a lot about legacies. That's, I think, what Dark Knight Rises. Batman, Talia takes over for Ra's al Ghul. And then at the end, when Batman's won that battle, he steps down and Robin steps up. And Robin's going to be the new vigilant guard of Gotham. And as a trained policeman, as opposed to a rich philanthropist playboy, I think he's also in a moral position to have this right from wrong attitude.
Yeah, do a better job of judging when he takes action and who he takes action
against. He's also at some level accountable to the law, where Batman, as a rich man, was always, there's that idea of I can do whatever I want, I'm rich, and I'll use that to stop crime. Where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is,
We're quoting Dave Chappelle on the way up here, so that's why we're laughing now.
That's the way that Bruce Wayne was thinking about it, I'm sure, in his mind.
Wait. So I have one comment then. Then I would say, to sum up, that basically, if you were to ask me what my favorite Batman comic book movie was, I would say the Tim Burton Batmans. And then if you were to tell me or ask me what's your favorite kind of philosophical character study, social commentary.
What's your favorite philosophical character study of Batman? Halo?
No, just period.
Oh, period?
No, not even Batman. They used Batman.
Yeah.
It didn't have to. What I'm saying is, it's a great story. You didn't even have to use Batman.
I'm like,
Batman was used.
I would not be surprised if they used those films to teach about some
psychological everything.
Problems, but psychological crime, and why people do stuff and why people feel the need to take on law enforcement and stuff.
That's what it is.
But so
they just use the background
as a comic book, exactly, the Batman motifs and stuff. So as a comic book film, it's good because it's the great character and it's nice fun. But as a psychological, in-depth, sociological study of good, evil, and bad, it's wonderful.
And it teaches you to talk like this.
And you learn to talk like this.
Originally... Wait. What do you want for breakfast? Justice with a side of bacon.
Originally,
and pancakes.
Here's a little thing most people don't know, but they wanted Bane. They altered Bane's voice, and I'm kind of glad they did because it was easy to understand. Because the first, if you go online, you can check it out. Bane was going to talk like this, and it was it was a really weird choice. And I'm glad that the studio was like, come on, Nolan,
What?
And,
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Okay,
so that's probably why.
Especially since you sound like the creepy old guy from Family Guy.
Hey, Batman, you just adapted to the darkness. I was born in it.
I got a fudge pop in my pocket. You can reach in there.
So, but what I also liked is also, to sum up, I also liked the realism of the Batman toys, whereas in the Burton films, we'd always talk about, man, where does he get those toys? Gadgets that would never work in real life.
Yeah.
And this one, Nolan went out of his way to say, okay, the tumbler has to be a real vehicle. Even the helibat or the Batwing or whatever they use, it's a
I liked all of that.
real looking vehicle. The tumbler motorcycle, everything has a realistic value. Oh, and I love they never called her Catwoman.
That's true.
In the whole movie, they never referred to her, and they talk about her as a cat burglar. And then when she puts her night vision goggles up, she's got but everything's real subtle in it, and you can honestly believe that these people were walking around.
It was Anne Hathaway in a bodysuit.
Oh man, I like the Anne Hathaway. Well, even the Joker, whereas before he gets spilled in a vat of acid, and it's all and it's so goofy looking.
Right.
In this one, I love they never explain the story of the Joker.
Yeah,
either. They give three different ones, and that makes him even weirder.
Which is great.
But it's realistic looking makeup that he's obviously applied, and so I thought that was really cool.
And also, again, about a comment about like the vehicles. I like how they did all the vehicles in the movie. Like, am I gonna buy like figures of them and hang them up in my house? No, they're boring.
Yeah.
But if they weren't
practical.
that way in the movie, it wouldn't. Yeah, the movie's more realistic because of that.
Well, let's take a really quick break because we're going to be running low on time today, and we're going to come back and do an interview with Halo. And it looks like we're going to save the music video for next week. All right, we'll be back in just a minute, guys. Watching DELoL Show.